Let's take you to Durban now, where we find my colleague Lethiwe Mdluli. She's looking at the state of rail infrastructure in that part of the country. Lethiwe, I don't know if you heard that little snippet of an interview that was had with PRASA this morning, where they say at least 18 corridors have been repaired and are functional at the moment. She mentions a few provinces such as Gauteng, the Eastern Cape, and even the city of Cape Town. Has this improved anything in Durban in particular?
Well, Maseko, there has been some improvement here in KwaZulu-Natal as well. We spoke to PRASA here in the region of KwaZulu-Natal, and they are saying that the main line that connects Johannesburg, Durban and Pietermaritzburg has been repaired. You'd remember that during the floods last year, that main line and other corridors as well that are very important were affected, and it took some time for the repair work to begin. We spoke to them also about how commuters were affected by this. We know that in places such as Umlazi, in the southern parts of Durban, there's about 350,000 people that rely on trains just on that region only. And PRASA is saying that they've been able to repair that corridor as well in Umlazi, and they're now working on repairing the northern corridor, which transport people from the Durban CBD to places such as KwaMashu. There's also thousands of people that rely on trains in that sector, in that section as well of the city. But in terms of the economic impact that this has had, it's quite bad. We spoke to trade and investment in KwaZulu-Natal, just basically asking them about the economic impact. To remember that KwaZulu-Natal is the second biggest economy in the country, and we do have two ports here in the province, which is the Richards Bay port and also the Durban port. So that has really impacted. We know that goods are currently not being, or they're currently being moved around using trucks on the road, and the railway system or the railway network is not being utilized enough when it comes to that. So Trade and Investments is saying that they've recorded or are estimating that they lost about 64 billion rand just last year alone when trains were not moving and when that main line in Cato Ridge was affected. And of course, they've also seen a decrease when it comes to transporting goods. We have a lot of goods coming into the province in Durban as well, and we have to transport them to other provinces, and they are saying that they've seen a decrease, and they are hoping that government nationally and provincially will come together and work towards fixing the railway network. But when we spoke to the CEO for Trade and Investment earlier on, this is what he had to say.
More can be done, and what we need is a better coordination between national and provincial, including all stakeholders that are involved, in order to circumvent some of these challenges that we're experiencing. Yeah. Financial loss in terms of the route, estimated about 64 billion, looking at the Transnet numbers. That really impacts on the KZN economy, and of course we're the second largest contributor to the economy, and that in itself is too huge in terms of an impact. Yeah.
And Lethiwe, it's all good and well to hear that more needs to be done, to hear that there's improvement. What about the people on the ground, the people who use these services? What are they telling you?
Well, Maseko, like I said, in Umlazi township alone, there's about 350,000 people that rely on trains as a mode of transportation. And you can just imagine now that since last year, when that corridor in Umlazi was shut down, basically due to the floods and the damage into the infrastructure, those people had to make other means to go to work or to travel. And when I spoke to the transport departments about the impact to commuters, they did say that they saw that a lot of people opted to use taxis and buses, and of course the fares in that form of transportation are quite high, and a lot of people cannot afford that. And they are saying that they are hoping now that since the railway or that corridor in Umlazi has been opened and it's now operating again, a lot of commuters will come back and rely on the trains for transportation. But we also asked them about the relationship that they have between PRASA, Transnet and the departments of transport, because I think one of of the reasons there's been delays in fixing the infrastructure and getting back to where we were years ago is because there's no communication, or the lack of communications between these entities. Where we speak to PRASA, they say one thing, and then we speak to the Department of Transport, they say another. The Transport Department is saying that they're having engagements with PRASA and Transnet, and they are hoping that there would be solutions into these meetings that they're having, and they are promising that everything might be back to normal by November. So we are going to be on the lookout for that. But when I spoke to the KZN Department of Transport spokesperson earlier on, this is what he had to say.
We've got standing engagements with Transnet and PRASA, and they've been briefing us on some of the challenges that are being experienced. Currently, there's an issue of floods that you have mentioned, which currently some of the lines have not been restored, which is impacting hugely and negatively to the province in terms of the movement of goods. But also, there is also an issue that they've briefed us on of the vandalism of some of their infrastructure, including cable theft on some of the major lines that are very important for the movement of goods, especially because we've got two major ports in the province, Richards Bay and Durban. Now, it is impacting on the economy of the province and ultimately the economy of the country. We are, however, encouraged by the fact that there's been some restoration after the floods of some of the strategic commuter lines in Durban and in areas surrounding KwaZulu-Natal, which is quite encouraging. And we are working together with our sister agencies to making sure that all the remaining work is expedited. They've been briefing us regularly, and we are quite optimistic that eventually all the damaged lines will be restored. And once that is achieved, we'll then be able to relocate commuters who are now using other modes of public transport to trains, which is more affordable. But also, it will assist us as the province in terms of moving some of the goods from roads to rail, because you'll recall that since there's this damage, there's an increase in terms of the influx of trucks on the roads. Some of the roads like R34 between Paul Petersburg towards the port of Richards Bay via Melmort, the road has been adversely damaged. There are other roads as well which are linking smaller towns, which now have been used by trucks because there's an increase, which is quite unprecedented. Therefore, it's impacting on the condition of our road network.
All right, Lethiwe Mdluli on the state of rail infrastructure in Durban in particular. Thank you. Let's leave it there for now.